bottom because I think this is key for how you configure the rest of this start element here. I'm optimizing this flow for fast field updates. What that means is when you click the save button, this logic runs first and then your record's committed to the database. And there's a lot of benefits you get from inserting your logic at that moment in the order of execution. You can actually avoid multiple calls to the database from being made. So anytime you have requirements that are going to be updating a field on the triggering record, you want to be using this fast field updates option, this before save flow option. And we're going to walk through other situations where we use actions and related records, but the key is that's for anything else that's not a same record update. So that's the first distinction I want to make here, is why you would use these fast field updates flows is truly just a record is created or updated, you want to update another value on that same record. Always use fast field updates. Now, once we understand that, and we understand where we are in the order of execution, when you click the save button, this logic runs, then the record's committed to the database. These entry conditions will start to make a lot more sense the way I've set them up. So entry conditions are sort of a way to evaluate should this flow run or not. And one of the things I've learned and have been experimenting with is the most efficient flow configurations only run when they absolutely need to. So if you have situations where you might not need this naming convention to take place because you're not doing anything that's affecting the name field, just skip it entirely. And that's what these entry conditions allow you to do. So you want to set this up so that this flow only runs under these very specific conditions. I use the OR for the condition requirements here, so I'm looking for any one of these four things to be true. That's when I want this flow to run, otherwise skip it entirely. The first one I have is checking the ID field. I say, is that ID field null at this point? What's happening there is I'm checking for a brand new record. Because this flow runs in before save context, when a brand new record is first saved to the database, I click the save button, this logic runs. Now because it hasn't been committed to the database yet, it doesn't have an ID. So if we check that ID field and it's null, we know this is a brand new record, and we want this flow logic to run. The other three criteria I have are watching for changes. So is the account changed? Is the amount changed? Or has the close date been changed? If any one of those three take place, we also want this flow to run to update our naming convention. Now the only other element I have on the flow canvas is an element that will set values on the triggering record. I'll be truthful, there's two ways to do this, and depending if you come from a programmatic background or admin background, one or the other might make sense for you. They both literally get translated to the same thing behind the scenes. So I'm going to show you the first way, which is more typically admin friendly. You use this update records element. I say that in quotations because you're not introducing any extra DML here. This is not another update call being made to the database. Salesforce recently brought the update records element to before save flows, but locked it down so that the only thing you can do is update the record that triggered the flow. What's happening here is they're translating this to an assignment so that you're able to assign values to this triggering record. You do have the option to add additional filtered conditions at this point. I try to optimize all my flows with entry conditions in the start element so that they truly only run when they need to. We don't even need to get to this element if we don't need it to run. Now I want to update the name field, the value in the name field. So that's the field I'm setting here, and I'm going to use a formula resource to update or to set a new value in that field. You'll see me do this a lot throughout the presentation. I'm a big fan of formula flow resources. They give you a ton of flexibility to specify all the logic you want to specify, and you can use them to consolidate little bits of logic so that they are reusable in multiple places. So let me show you what that name value formula resource looks like. In here, we have access to all of the functions and operators that you're used to when you're building a formula field on a custom object. They recently brought this new function selector, which makes it really nice to find the function you're looking for, understand what the input parameters and attributes might be. So all we have to do here is just piece together a piece of text that we want to set as the new value for our name field. I'll do a couple things to make sure that we're safe as we're doing this along the way and avoid some errors. First thing I'm going to do is I want to put the name of the account. Now, the name of the account lives on a parent record. It's not on the opportunity. I have to go across that account relationship. Anytime you're going to traverse a relationship, you can do that in your before save flow from the $record global variable. Once you click into this, you get access to all of the relationship fields that are denoted with this little sideways caret here. That lets you traverse that relationship and select a field from that parent object. This is all great. You want to take advantage of this because you're not introducing any extra social queries. There are no extra get records actions that need to take place. If you would have access to any value on the triggering record or any value on a parent, you can actually traverse multiple levels here if you needed to go even further. Now what I recommend is before you traverse these relationships, you want to make sure they have a value. The flow will fail at runtime if you try to traverse a relationship that doesn't have an ID specified. So this first line is just checking, is there an account ID specified in the view? If that's true, I can go ahead and traverse those relationships and grab the value that I need, the name of the account. If there is no account specified, I have the option to put an else condition. I can say unknown account. Then I have a delimiter here. I'm just using pipes to help separate these pieces of information in the name. And keep in mind, the name field is a text field, so if we want to reference like a date, we will need to convert that into text first. So you can use that function there. The last thing I'm doing here is I wanted to put the amount. Now amounts are stored as plain numbers in the database. They don't always have 2 decimal places. They don't have any currency symbol at the beginning. So if you wanted to format that like US dollars, if your organization is based in the United States, you'll have to add back in that formatting yourself. So here I've used a bunch of functions and formulas. There's a lot of resources to do currency formatting in the Success community. So just search for the currency you're interested in. You can even make it dynamic if you have multiple currencies. A lot of wonderful stuff you can do. But really just wanted to showcase the power of these formula resources give you that flexibility to list all those functions and operators to get exactly the data you need stored in that name field. I'm going to activate this and show you how it works real quick. So I'm going to flip over here to my org. I'm on an account, and I'm going to create a brand new opportunity here. And I'll specify something for the name field because that is still required. You can use a screen flow if you wanted to truly bypass this and not even give people the option to do a name. I got some other tips I'll show you too. I'll put an amount here. Let's say it's $800 and it's going to close at the end of the month, and I'll give it a stage. Now as soon as I click the save button, watch the toast message that pops up for the success. It's going to overwrite my name field with that formula logic. So even before the record's committed to the database, it gets that new name field so that even my success message shows me the correct name that I wanted to see. So here's my new opportunity record with that naming convention applied. If I were to update one of those key pieces of information, let's say this is going to be $1,000 now and I have to push it out a month. As soon as I click save, it's going to run that flow because my entry conditions are looking for changes to those values. It's going to set that new naming convention for